all Nigerian politicians are the same. They will sacrifice you when a sacrifice needs to be made. That's what politicians do.
The system is flawed, and the people who can fix the system are benefiting from the flaws it has right now, and they have absolutely no reason why they want to fix it.
The only thing that can fix Nigeria is a reset. The reason being that you have a country that have consistently elected the worst of us to lead the best of us.
Whatever you've done in Nigeria, 95% of the time there's no consequence for bad behavior, so that's why these things keep happening.
If you are the president, propaganda shouldn't get you out of office if you know what you're doing.
Guys, you know, the last time I sat with two people on this set, it was a couple. It was an interesting, it's the only time I've had two people.
I'm not coupled with Sheriff, by the way, just for the records.
You guys
for the records, camera.
Whatever you guys are, and you can say for yourself what you.
I don't like him. I can't stand the guy.
Actually, he likes me a lot.
Yeah,
he does like me a lot.
Okay,
he works well with me. He knows that.
And this is also strange because this is the first time I'm altering my sitting position during this podcast.
Oh, really?
So what it means is I have this white background, OTB, the outside the box thing behind me, and my best friend, my little radio here, gets to move to the angle. Usually sits on my table, and then I have this fine gentlemen here. They have the colored backgrounds, which I just so love, the alternating patterns of black, white, and green. It's just beautiful behind them. It makes you glow somewhat. So I you know, when I started this podcast, I wanted to have conversations with my friends first. I chose Frank Edoho for a reason, because we go way back and we had fantastic conversations. I even had a conversation with Marianne, which Emmanuel has probably thrown away or lost.
Really, Emmanuel?
I don't know.
What happened?
I'm not sure.
Did she say things that?
No, it's beautiful. I mean, we have it in our archives, by the way. Okay. We haven't rolled it out, but we have it in our archives. So both of you are people who followed the news, especially with regards to Nigeria. You run the newsroom of one of the country's major broadcast conglomerate, and that's Ufuoma Egbamuno, by the way. Sheriff Quadry, you've run a newsroom before, and now you are one of the foremost news and current affairs voices in terms of presentation and production. So you guys really follow the news better than me, much better than me. And I was just wondering, we just sit down and have this conversation about Nigeria. And I was wondering whether Nigeria could be suffering from bad leadership, or whether it's more like a broken followership culture. I think the one thing that we can agree is that, the feedback we get from our personal experiences and from what we get from people is that wahala dey. The question is, what is the problem? Is it bad leadership? Is it broken followership? What's going on?
I think it's a combination of both, but that's actually not the first problem. The first problem is that Nigeria was set up to fail. That's the first problem, I think. The colonial masters we had, if you remember, did not even want to go. I'm talking Britain in this instance now. They did not want to go. You could argue they were forced. But it was not set up to be a perfect country. It was set up to aid the administration of the British. We were a colony, so they set us up, to be able to handle whatever it is they needed to handle. And you brought people with different cultures, different backgrounds, different ways of life. The typical Igbo man is a Republican. He has no king, so to speak. The typical Fulani Hausa person, you would argue, is more feudal. You know, I can't say so much about the Yorubas. You could argue that it's a bit of both. These are Nigeria's main three ethnic groups. When you bring diverse people like this and you're forcing them on each other, the likelihood that there will be issues, you know. But this is also me not putting all the blames on Britain, because they've left us for 64 years or there. Yeah, 65 years now.
But 65,
October 1st,
October
you know,
about
soon
it.
get there. What has happened? We've had a succession of terrible leaders. Sometimes you don't know how bad it is until you actually sit down with some of these politicians. If you sit down with them and listen to, excuse me, listen to their discussions, listen to how they see the country, you'll weep. We the followers ourselves are not even helping matters. Because it feels like all we just want to do is everybody's waiting for their turn. But when will it get to my turn to, you know, get into position so that I can go take a part of the national cake that I've been envying those who are there right now. So I think it's a combination of everything altogether.
I'll put it this way. I think Nigeria is a construct that was set up to not thrive, was set up to be to be a failure for like God knows how long. Nigeria may not survive. Nigeria will eventually fail, you know, collapse
May.
if you like. Yes, may eventually, because for about 60 years or so, we have failed to reinvent ourselves. Even if colonial masters, you know, handed over some things to us, I mean, the forefathers didn't help either. These guys were brilliant. They were educated. I mean, you need to go and listen to some of our forefathers and watch their videos. Their English is impeccable, sweet. And you're wondering, these guys, with everything that they were endowed with at the time, they didn't think to invent some things. There is no patriotism in Nigeria. People think that by just saying I'm a Nigerian, by just saying this means patriotism. A lot of people right now just want to get into power, steal the much that they can steal, and leave the rest for Nigeria to continue failing. I've said this times without number that where we are today as a nation is as a result of generational failures. And the failures would continue. If a child is born in Nigeria today, that child has already been afflicted by whatever it is that has afflicted Nigeria. And look, however we want to look at it, nobody in today's generation, and the generation that is being born as I'm speaking now, can fix Nigeria. The generation that will fix Nigeria will not be born in Nigeria. There is something about the atmosphere in Nigeria. There is something about the water. There's something about, we have no business being poor, yet we are living in abject poverty. We have no business begging anybody for aid, yet we are in constant state of lack. We are in no business not living like the Saudis, not living like the UAEs, not living large. But look at us today. We've got virtually everything that we need as a country to thrive, to flourish. But some forces just keep working against the progress of Nigeria.
I think it also boils down to the fact that there's no consequence for bad behavior. Absolutely none. We get away with blue murder in this country. Like literally. I'm chuckling because I just remember the case of someone who literally told the whole world that snakes swallowed millions of naira. Have you heard anything about it anymore? Remember the panel from the usual money stuff we use on our station?
Maybe
Nigeria Info?
maybe they killed the snake and got the money out.
Maybe. Off your mic, Honorable Minister. We know that. It happened just about 2 years ago, yeah? What has come out of that? Absolutely nothing. We've forgotten about it.
We move on.
We move on. So where you have let's be honest with ourselves. Corruption, nepotism happens everywhere in the world. Even the Western countries, it happens there. However, to a large extent, their systems work. There's a consequence for bad behavior. If you are caught, if for any reason you make the mistake of getting caught, there's a system that ensures you pay for whatever you've done. In Nigeria, that system really doesn't work. It only works when somebody, maybe you've been the target of the powers that be, or for any reason, like one of the former PDP Southwestern chairman, who was somehow caught and he had no way to hide. Yeah, so he had to go to prison. Or you just get caught and there's no way out of it. That's the only way you suffer consequence. But generally, 95% of the time, there's no consequence for bad behavior. So that's why these things keep happening.
Let me add this. I'm glad that you asked about followership. The followership have let Nigeria down. If Nigeria were to be a woman, Nigeria would have maybe died a long time ago, because Nigeria has been raped severally, abused severally, pillaged severally, and her children are always there just watching. Nobody takes action. And the reason I mentioned earlier about reinventing Nigeria is because we have a very docile people. Every Nigerian wants a superhero to fight their cause. They want a superhuman to fight their cause. And the moment you're fighting Nigeria's cause and something happens, everybody moves on to the next superhero. In other words, the mentality of self-entitlement, that is where we bred that mentality from, because we wanted somebody that can fight for us. We don't know that building a nation takes the
Collective
effort of everybody. A Nigerian will tell you, God go help us. May we pray. Prayer will not give you the kind of nation that you desire. Like Ufuoma said earlier, in a nation where there is no consequence whatsoever for bad behavior, people will continue to trample on your right. They will continue to steal your commonwealth. And if as a people, you don't get up and say enough is enough, it's going to get worse. Nigeria is headed for God knows what.
The question, Sheriff, then becomes, so what do? You talk about docility on the part of the people. Ufuoma had mentioned that, literally the country is doomed. But you go into the history, and doesn't the history reveal that some people fought for Nigeria's independence? Nigerians who rose up and fought. Was it a fight, or was it a scripted fight?
I don't think that we've ever fought for anything in our lives, in our existence as a country.
There was a civil war.
No, well, that's aside.
Let's not erase that memory.
Well, that's not Nigeria fighting for something. Those are two entities fighting together. As a collective, as a state, as a nation, we have our independence was. I want to believe that some people reached some kind of deal to keep us the way we are. And trust me, if anybody gets into that office in Asorokti today, those terms will be read to you, and you better play along. Otherwise, tell me why it took us 20 years, or 20 years, please correct me if I'm wrong, for us to get PIB passed. There are forces that, look, I mean, like you said, what do we do now? I think that first is education. Our education has been deliberately kept so bad that you see people online, people that will still watch this video and will still say some things that will blow your mind. And you will now question yourself, did he go to school again? Is this guy really a PhD holder? Because some things that you see Nigerians say online, some things that you see Nigerians drop online, you would almost think that, nah, this thing is not real. To me, is a symptom of a deeper problem, which is in some other climes, they will teach young children how to do critical thinking as young as they are. A child can tell you how much it will take her to walk from her home to her school. She will tell you how long, in minutes, in distance,
In steps.
in steps. You can't find how are you going to do that here? The small boy himself doesn't even have bag to take to school. So you see a systemic strategy to disenfranchise Nigerians right from when they are small and young. Then you find people who are grown-ups in their 20s, in their mid-20s, in their 30s, not being able to rationalize thoughts, not being able to pass thoughts across. I mean, how can such people know what to fight for? Just tell me, help me. How can such people know that somebody is manipulating them?
I mean,
how can such people know
people
that?
still believe that it's not Buhari that died a few weeks ago.
Do you understand me? Do you understand me?
Like literally, I was talking to someone a few days ago, and the person literally reiterated it. And
Can you blame people though? Sometimes, I mean, this conversation has, veered into education. Somebody said to me, just go to Nigerian universities and sit down with the students there, have a conversation with them. If you have a conversation with them, you will know how doomed the country is. Because even the youngsters coming up, they are just like, everybody's just thinking, my guy, let me just go out, look for opportunities, grab what I can grab, and so that kind of critical thinking. And to the point you were making, Sheriff, about the quality of the education in this country. You go to different places and kids tell you, you ask for direction. Somebody can say, oh, okay, walk 15, 20 meters south, and all of that. When I was a kid, older people used to tell you, okay, where you are going is like 4 NEPA poles. Even that we don't have. Those people, they could, they were markers.
Use all those landmarks,
you understand? Here is go. It's the only way we can describe anything. First right turn, then the next left, another right, another left. It's like we do not have. Anyway, well, let's leave that. The question is, can it be fixed? You guys, Ufuoma especially, you seem to suggest that there's nothing to be done about it.
so the reason
Bad leadership, broken followership. Can both of them be fixed?
I don't think so. Not anytime soon.
I don't think
Probably
so, too.
not in my lifetime.
I don't think so too.
So here's what I think. Here's what I think. First of all, if you to be able to fix the leadership problem, you need to be able to fix the system that brings in the leadership. And the system that brings in the leadership is through elections. Now, I'm not even talking about party affiliations and how denominations. That one is another broken system where if you're not a money bag or you don't have someone who's a money bag behind you, you're getting nowhere. That's a problem on its own. But if you move through that elementary part and get to elections itself, the system is flawed. And the people who can fix the system are benefiting from the flaws it has right now. And they have absolutely no reason why they want to fix it. I'll give you a very good example. In the build-up to the 2019 the 2022, 2022 Electoral Act is 2022, that everybody, was, okay, let me not say everybody, some of us were excited about that it was going to help change the electoral system. That Electoral Act was ready 4 years before, 2018, under the National Assembly leadership of Senator Bukola Saraki. The president at the time, the late Muhammadu Buhari, refused to sign it. Why did you think he didn't?
Tell me.
Very simple. That Electoral Act would have opened up the system in such a way that flaws will be reduced to the barest minimum. And his party faithfuls and leaders told him point blank, if you sign this, you're signing
You're on your own.
your death warrant, so to speak. And so he refused to sign it. And we went into that 2019 election because, of course, he is an incumbent. He wants to win. After that, when he knew he was on his way out of government, he signed the Electoral Act. But even at that, you still had an umpire who gave one set of rules, and then after elections decided that, you know what, we can decide to do what we want to do. And of course, the highest court in the land, proclaimed its decision and said, hey, the INEC I'm talking about here as the umpire, can decide whatever it is they want to decide. Now, back to my original question or my original answer. The only way you can usher in at least some bit of credible leadership is through elections that everybody or almost everybody agree is free, fair, credible. And when people are elected into positions knowing that they are answerable to the populace, they will do well when they get on their seat. One of the issues we have is that elected officials or people who are supposed to change the issues we are talking about know that to a large extent, their elections are not based on me and you queuing on a Saturday afternoon. They know they can get through that flawed system from the local government coalition center to the state to the federal and get away with blue murder. That's one of the biggest problems. I don't see that changing anytime. Imagine a scenario where card-carrying party members are appointed into INEC, who is supposed to be the unbiased umpire, right? What happens? They are there to favor whoever it is appointed them. The person who's now the chairman of the ruling party, just about 5-6 years ago, was an INEC member. Was a state resident electoral commissioner. Yeah, some people will argue and tell me, well, he's left that position now. He's a Nigerian. He has the rights, to aspire to those kinds of positions. But he joined partisan politics officially immediately after leaving office. What is it? How is it that there's a possibility he was not even in active partisan politics? We've seen open cases where in an Adamawa election was held. This resident electoral commission is not supposed to be the one announcing results. That's the job of the what's it called? I've forgotten what the position, but that's not the resident electoral commission's job. He announced results and caused a bit of chaos, in the country. I was at a conference sometime last year. I had 2 people from INEC at that conference in Abuja. One of them, of course, I'm not going to mention names, but is currently a resident electoral commissioner. One was the national electoral commissioner who just left after the 2023 elections. Some of the things we were told off the records, which of course I can't say here, makes you just think about it and say, hey, there's absolutely no hope in this country.
Let me add to this, Femi. To be very blunt, Nigeria is damaged, irreparably damaged, and it cannot be fixed. I will not mince words. The only thing that can fix Nigeria is a reset. You can interpret that however you want to interpret it. The reason being that you have a country that have consistently elected the worst of us
Goodness me.
to lead the best of us. It's not that the best of us aren't interested in governance. No. If the best of us, if they came out today running for office, we, these same people, will abandon them at the polls. He will probably get his one vote. That is if the card reader even acknowledges his fingerprint. we will encourage these thugs, these fraudsters. We sing their praises. We chant their names. We forget that these people don't have your best interest at heart whatsoever. Now, that's why I mentioned earlier, like, we have a population that have consistently wallowed in their ignorance for so long that they don't even know who's got their best interest at heart anymore. These guys know your fault lines, and they flash these fault lines before your eyes, and you happily and cheerfully embrace these fault lines, not knowing that you're being played. And this, as long as we're in this position, we can't fix this country. I don't think election can fix this country, no. But then whatever reset means.
So I'm just thinking. Let's pivot back, because it's this conversation can go really to deep, dark places.
I'm trying for us not to.
Yeah, and
I don't want to leave you depressed.
But let's focus now on the very last presidency in Nigeria, the last president, Buhari, who the country lost recently. I had a conversation with Jimmy Disu recently about his thoughts and all of that. Quite interesting and enlightening, that conversation. And I'm wondering, after 8 years of Buhari, what do you think history will remember him for the more? There is his strength, there is his silence. Which is it? What will history remember? Ufuoma, I want to hear you.
Every time I think about Buhari, I am sad. I'm sad because I had so much hopes, so much expectations. Let me state it clearly, before he even became popular, especially down south here, I stood under the sun and voted for President Buhari. And I'm talking the 2011 elections. Because if you remember his trajectory and his history, a large chunk of his votes were always northern votes, from northern states. It took him to have that collaboration, CPC, ACN, a part of ABGA, for him to win the 2015 elections. I couldn't vote because I was working, but I did, quote unquote, campaign for him, via my social media handles. And I would say here clearly that he was a big disappointment for me. I expected a whole lot. But 6 months into his administration, I knew we were headed for doom.
What was the attraction? What raised your hope so much for Buhari?
Now, in hindsight, people might call me a fool, because here was someone who, after leaving power in 1984, really did not do much to empower himself intellectually. You couldn't say for sure that this was the one policy or paper that, he went to one university to talk about, or that he had done. But I think the attraction for me was, one, he was a disciplinarian. Two, I like to be in the opposition, naturally. That's why I started supporting Arsenal. Yeah.
Who were your opposing?
I hated Manchester United and the way they were winning, But back to the subject, I felt, not just feeling, they were even saying it. The ruling party at the time, the PDP, were so arrogant. They even went as far as saying they were going to rule the country for the next 60 years. And truly, because they were the only, at the time, national party. Every other party we had in the country were regional or segmented. And personally, I wanted change. So you could say that change mantra resonated with me and for a number of Nigerians. But in hindsight, it was a mistake. Because tell me how you wait for 6 months to appoint something as simple as your ministers. 6 months. And then after the 6 months when they were appointed, it wasn't like he had brought a collection of the very best of minds. You know, you think back to the Obasanjo administration and the ministers under Obasanjo, he brought a lot of noble intellectuals, professionals into government, and that showed. But think about President Buhari's cabinet from 2015 to 2023. I'm sorry, you could only handpick a few. Some of them, people like Solomon Dalong, is today screaming his mouth out, calling himself, calling the present administration out. Oh, by the way, the present administration needs to be called out. I'm not saying they shouldn't, but this man was in power for 4 years and almost destroyed Nigeria's sports. Let's talk about Hadi Sirika. They are all claiming now to be opposition. You know, so are these the sets of people you waited 6 months to appoint? And to make matters worse, the man was aloof. He was never aware of anything. Supposedly, he came to fight corruption. Yeah, it was an attraction. You know, we saw, or at least we were told, I was told, I wasn't old enough then, I was 4, 5, you know, but I was told by my parents and elders around, you know, how strict he was trying to fight the whole war against indiscipline and all of that, or fight corruption.
When he came to power in 83, 84.
84, exactly.
Before he lost it in 85.
85, August 27th, I won't forget. That's when Babangida got him out.
You know, I remember I was slightly older, and I remember that time because, you know, and I shared with Jimmy Disu some of my personal experiences from that time as a kid. But those who, like Jimmy Disu, who were much older at the time, say it was more Tunde Diagbon than, you know, he was a commander-in-chief, yeah, but it was Tunde Diagbo who was his right-hand man, who was actually the
brain behind all of it.
But it doesn't matter. At
Exactly.
least, you know, he was the CNC.
So he takes the responsibility.
Yeah, he takes the responsibility. So what you're saying is that was your mindset.
Exactly.
That was what you were hoping to get back to.
And the man absolutely deviated. Under him, you could argue corruption got worse. Literally.
Couldn't you argue, Sheriff, that a military C and a civilian democratically elected president, they don't wield the same powers or authority? They can't. It's two different things.
Look, that's a valid argument. But unfortunately for President Buhari, rest his soul, he had the same, he was in the same situation he was back then. He had Yemi Osinbajo, brilliant young man. The few months that Yemi Osinbajo was in power, deputizing for him, everybody, there was just this fresh air.
Exactly.
It was natural. The expectation we had when Buhari came into power in 2015 for the first 2-3 months was that thing was, it came back. And people had belief again. People had, in fact, they didn't even pray God forgive everybody. They didn't pray Yemi Osinbajo to leave that position because he went to the creeks.
And yet, when Buhari's 8 years were done, Yemi Osinbajo could not.
Look, permit me to go this way. Mm-hmm. I'm going to, because that question cannot be answered without a chronicling of some sort.
Okay.
President Obasanjo put us where we are.
Okay.
Whatever Jonathan did, Yaradua did, Buhari did, and Tinubu is doing, started with Obasanjo. Obasanjo, I mean, Ufuoma called my attention to this in his submission earlier. Obasanjo was brilliant. He reinforced the spirit of nationhood.
True.
He reinforced service. He was exceptional.
People were coming back from abroad.
He brought us from the dungeon. We had this renewed, I'm not going to say it. You know,
renewed hope.
But
say it.
It was fantastic. brilliant minds, cerebral minds. In fact, we still see some of them today
True.
playing on the global scale.
True.
He wanted a third term. He failed. He went to go and bring Yaradua. He knew his state of health because he was a CNC at the time. He couldn't, President Basho should come here now and tell us that he didn't get a report from DSS that this man was ill. What did he do next? He went to Bayelsa to go and bring the deputy governor who became the governor by accident to come and be the vice president by accident again. I mean, with due respect to President Jonathan, he wasn't just cut out for it. Now, the position of president fell on his laps. What was he going to do? To me, in my mind, I'm thinking President Obasanjo knew what he was doing. He wanted to get back at this country for not allowing him get his third term. So he gave us Yaradua and Jonathan.
What if I deviate?
Hold on for a bit.
Okay.
Just give me a sec. Jonathan failed woefully. Nigerians were desperate. Anything but Jonathan. Jonathan plundered this country. I mean, I love the man. He's a kind, wonderful person. But he shouldn't have been our president. He didn't deserve to be the president because he didn't have what it takes to be the president of this country. He could be governor of Bayelsa. Bayelsa, okay. I think Bayelsa is complicated for him. Maybe Ogun State, like Governor Abiodun is doing now. I mean, nobody would have noticed. No, honestly. Because Bayelsa is a rich state. I don't think he'll be able to, yeah. So everybody was desperate for a change. I mean, you have Desani, you have all of these people, and they were looting this country dry under his watch.
It didn't stop under Jonathan. It was still happening under Buhari.
I'm coming
and
there
that's my
now.
problem.
Hold on, I'm coming there. So because we were desperate, we needed to survive. We were gasping for bread. We were making money, then paying about 97% of our income for some fools to steal. It was that bad. But we're living a false life because everybody believed during Jonathan we're buying a bag of rice for 8,000. They didn't know that we're going to come back and pay dearly for it. There was no way we could have avoided what is happening now. We couldn't have avoided it because Jonathan mismanaged this country. Like he plunged, people don't even know, well, maybe they knew, but they've forgotten that this guy drove us into recession. Buhari came in with high hopes. Everybody sat tight.
Technically, it was Buhari that drove us into recession. Technically,
it was
recession
Jonathan.
was 2016.
It was
Jonathan was long gone.
So recession does not just come at you.
I'm not arguing. I'm just telling you, technically, officially, our recession was under President Buhari.
Yes.
But I agree that
Buhari.
the things that drove us there didn't start under President Buhari. It started long before. I agree.
Let me just.
But Buhari contributed to it.
Let me just wrap up with my thought. Buhari came in, somebody that tried to be president of this country. How many times? 3 times?
4.
3 times before.
Okay, the 4th one.
He came in on his 4th trial. And he had no clue what he was doing.
Like how? How?
I mean, how could you come in on such a promise?
Goodwill.
Such immense goodwill. And you had no plans. Come on, man. You've got to be a fool of the highest order. For you to have tried 3 times and you have no plan. You don't even have your ministers, your names. Back in the day, from what we heard from the older generation, people like Awolowo, you already had the names of all of the people they're going to work with. The day he came into power, that was the day he announced his cabinet. We don't have such anymore. The guy took 6 months. Who's going to wait for you for 6 months?
I'm trying to circle back to the whole 3rd term agenda thing.
Now, wait. Just wait. I will come to Tinubu. Tinubu had wanted to be president for God knows when. But guess what? He was so desperate that he wanted to just get power first. How was he going to get the power? Use Buhari, of course. He knows that once he threw Buhari in, everybody loves Buhari. Everybody wanted Buhari to come and sanitize the mess created. Now Buhari came in, messed everything up. I understand the fact that Buhari naturally was a very quiet person, but you can't rule the country like that. I also understand the fact that he was encumbered by ill health, and there are stories behind that as well, which I may not be able to share on this podcast. But it doesn't excuse the fact that you are the commander in chief. Nigeria is placed on your laps. You have to fix the country. Tinubu came in. He saw what Nigerians were crying over. He came in on your first day. Who does that? You have no plans whatsoever. Then you announce subsidy is gone. Guess what, Femi? It was as though everybody knew, filling stations. It was as though they knew that was going to happen. Guess what? They locked up. Nobody was selling fuel. The moment he announced that thing, fuel prices, everything. No plans. Till today, apart from a few CNG buses that I've started seeing now, in his first year, there was no plan whatsoever as to how to alleviate the people's suffering. And the work that Buhari did in the area of agriculture, everything completely smashed into pieces now because the borders have been opened. Rice is now coming in. People that had invested billions of naira in bringing in rice milling machines, they are nowhere now. Their businesses crashing. So tell me exactly how we're going to progress as a country where there is no... You can't say that there is any continuity in the plans that we have over time as a nation.
Sheriff, talking about continuity, would it have actually been a bad thing to have allowed Obasanjo continue a third term?
You tell me.
Do you want me to answer?
No. I'm asking, and it's an open-ended question, because we currently we're practicing democracy, fashioning it against what we see from Western countries. But New York is not Lagos, right? London is not Abuja. We have our peculiarities. We have our own ways. Is it possible for us to fashion out from the same democracy other ways that will work for us as Nigerians? I'm not... Please don't get me wrong. This is me not trying to promote dictatorship. But I look at Rwanda. Yeah, the president there has been there for multiple occasions, sometimes he's accused of dictatorship, silencing.
He's a dictator.
Yeah.
High-handedness.
But I agree also that Rwanda is a very small state. Possibly you can compare it to Lagos. I was there in 2016, 9 years ago. I'm sure it's way better now because of the people
From the reports
of people who go there. Is Rwanda not better off with letting one person continue to rule? Would it have been bad for us to have allowed Obasanjo continue from where he was? Because let's face it and be honest with ourselves. Almost everybody that has... By the way, Obasanjo had loads of issues. This is not to try to whitewash his 8 years in power. He had issues, loads of them. But I'm saying, would it have been bad to let him continue with the policies he had already started? Would it not have been better than his sick Yaradua? Would it not have been better than an almost clueless Jonathan? Or would it not have been better than an aloof President Buhari?
That's interesting because it makes me think of the question I was going to ask. You said he set up the country to fail. And he says maybe he should have been given that third term. My question is, what were the options? To his point, the country says it practices democracy. Democracy says you get 2 terms, 4 years each, at the end of which you no longer can run. Okay. Until that is changed, that is what democracy says. It's a different question whether democracy itself is a ruse. We'll come to that later. But here he's going. He's done his bit. He's not perfect, but he's brought all these things together after many years of military rule and all of that. So he's on his way out. What are the options? There's Atiku Abubakar, his deputy, the same deputy he called a crook. Or he said some unsavory things about. Which also resonated in people's mind. So you had Atiku on the one hand. Then there's Yaradua, his guy that he was going to. Who were the other options? Donald Duke.
I
Right?
yes.
Do I remember?
Yes,
Donald Duke?
Yes, Donald
And
Duke.
the River State
Donald
governor, Peter Odili.
Peter Odili.
Literally, Peter Odili would have won the PDP ticket if Obasanjo did not step in.
Yes. So would you have seen Peter Odili as a better? So tell me, which of these paths could have been better?
So I personally, I think that for the fact that our system is structured in such a way that the president determines who becomes the INEC chairman, who even succeeds him, I think we can't get it right. There's nothing we can do about it. But let's further expand the net self. Let's say Donald Duke rejected the position. Let's say Peter Odili is the wrong man for the job. Who else was in his cabinet that he could have handed over to? Or maybe even outside of his cabinet. During Obasanjo's term, we had Nuhu Ribadu, didn't we?
We had Nuhu Ribadu.
We had El Rufai, didn't we?
Yeah, we had El Rufai.
These were young people at the time, that he brought in. We had
people who had a lot of unsavory things to say about El Rufai, especially the Abuja people.
Especially the Abuja people. But look, whatever these guys did at that time, we could see what they were doing.
Didn't he have, who was the central bank governor then?
The president Anambra. Okay, no, the Charles Soludo came later.
Okay, Charles Soludo came later.
Charles Soludo started under him.
Under
he was,
Obasanjo.
I mean, under who did
Obasanjo.
SLS served?
Who?
Sanusi Lamido Sanusi.
That was Jonathan.
That was Jonathan.
Yeah,
Maybe?
Sanusi was Jonathan.
But Sanusi must have been somewhere. For Obasanjo,
I think it was First Bank.
for
chairman at the time.
Obasanjo, who was able to headhunt those people that he worked with. For Obasanjo, who went and picked up Dora Akunyili, that did not know him from Adam, that he did not know from Adam. He only picked her up based on recommendation from Buhari.
Wasn't that what he was trying to do with Yaradua?
So to be fair, it's Nigeria. You don't just pick anybody to be president. Unfortunately,
So-
it is what it is.
So where I'm going with my head hunting thing about Obasanjo is that I can put anything on this table that I know that Obasanjo did what he did intentionally. If he could headhunt the people that worked with him, even if the president at the time that would succeed him were to come from Igbora, Obasanjo would find somebody befitting enough, healthy enough, well-educated enough, capable enough to be the president of this country. He did what he did. Even if he had to go to Yaradua's village, he would find another professor there.
To be fair, Yaradua was actually a great choice. The only issue with Yaradua was his health challenge.
Didn't he know? That's my question.
I think he knew. I think he knew.
Was that the best?
I don't know. I don't
feel he knew Yaradua was terminally ill.
So we can never know. We can only speculate here. But don't forget that the class of governors at the time, first things first, Obasanjo could not have handed over to a southern president, which was why he did everything he could to stop Peter Odili. Because like I said earlier, Peter Odili would have easily won that PDP ticket in 2006 because he had the money. He absolutely, no, but today, the usage of River State resources to pursue president, it didn't start today. It started way back. Now, back to the point. Of course,
Obasanjo seemed to not want Atiku anywhere near.
Unfortunately, because of course he saw up close whatever he saw. But of the class of governors, at least at that time from the northern part of the country, Yaradua was actually a smart choice. The biggest issue with Yaradua, which turned out to be a problem, was his health challenge.
Okay, so let's come back to Buhari. Certainly there's something you give him credit for,
Yeah,
which is
infrastructure.
infrastructure.
Yeah, I would give him good credit for that. But you see, there's no use giving me a cup of tea and then using your left hand to take it out again.
Do you want another cup of tea?
Please, I do.
Almost a cup of tea.
Yeah. So myself and Sheriff yesterday, we had a bit of an argument,
Over this infrastructure thing.
Yeah, he said Obasanjo, he said Buhari had more infrastructure achievements than Obasanjo. I slightly disagree. In terms of railway projects, yes, did amazing with the railway projects. But infrastructure alone is not railway and roads. It's more than that. You talk about, for example, setting up NDDC. Go ask anybody. Again, NDDC is another cesspool or another pit that has a lot of question marks, that they have to answer. But quite a lot of communities in the South region have benefited from infrastructures that were brought courtesy NDDC. Who set up NDDC? Obasanjo. He might not get the direct credit or achievement, but I just use that as an example. Let's talk about telecommunications. We were able to do this. People were able to watch this podcast, make their comments on social media because he regularized or
democratized
the telecom sector, such that we moved from about 500,000 or 50,000. I think it was 50,000 at the time. By the time he was leaving office, we had almost 40 million lines. Right now, the number has gone way higher. But in every nook and cranny of this country, only that policy alone has helped at least one person. You can't quantify that in terms of roads and bridges that you see.
Sheriff, you disagree. You feel Buhari did more in terms of infrastructure?
I mean, look, at one point or the other, we're going to have all of these things anyways. Whether we agree or not, we're going to have telecom services. We're going to have the same way we've democratized the development commissions in this country now, that each region now has development commission. We're going to have all of these things anyways. But one thing that we've always had, that if we didn't do what we were supposed to do, it will get worse, is roads and rail. Nigeria used to, people who are older, they will tell you that once upon a time in this country, they moved by rail from Lagos to Kaduna to Kano. At some point, all of those things degenerated. All of those things disappeared. And guess what? When Buhari came in, and I'm not going to speak for him whatsoever, he was so invested in getting Nigeria to move, both within and also outside of the country. So he focused heavily on moving goods, moving businesses by rail, from Lagos to Kano to Zaria, to Kaduna, to Maradi, Niger, from Apapa Port, straight to Ibadan. You can move your cargo, Warri, Takpe, just name it. The Oshodi Ojota Expressway. He reconstructed so many roads, even Lagos Ibadan, that had been there for God knows how many years. Successive governments, they have come, they have gone, they have seen this very important infrastructure. They have seen this infrastructure, deteriorate over time, and nobody has been able to concretely done something. And the phenomenon about contracts and awards of contract and exchange of contracts in this country, contracts gets awarded and nothing is done. On paper, the contract is awarded, is done, but what is actually present on the ground is nothing has been done. People are still suffering. But under Buhari, we saw a man who wanted to focus on infrastructure, and he made sure that he achieved, especially transportation. He did wonderful stuff. Look at Second Niger Bridge. For how many years have we been talking about Second Niger Bridge?
Sheriff, I could say same of Obasanjo. Let's not try and rewrite history. At least over 100 roads were constructed. Federal roads. Actually, it was the Ibadan Ife Road, the Benin bypass, the Benin. There are lots of roads that under Obasanjo were dualized. They were one-way roads before Obasanjo. So I necessarily would not want to. I don't think that the argument about who did more on infrastructure is really important because both did. Maybe I can agree that Buhari was slightly in terms of infrastructure, but I'm looking at.
You cannot agree slightly. He was.
I don't. No, I don't think it was way higher.
I don't. It was far better.
I don't agree.
Let me give you just one reason.
Tell
why
me.
It was far better. You see, during Obasanjo had all the complements of government.
How?
Like, look, money was there.
Goodness me.
Nigeria was making far better. He tried. Look, in terms of governance, in terms of structure, Obasanjo was fantastic. Buhari was a failure in terms of governance and structure.
I'm glad you agree on that.
But you see, in terms of infrastructure, Buhari went above and beyond. Yes, he borrowed most of the monies that he used.
And we're paying the price.
Wait. But he got things done. That's where I'm going.
You remember my talk about
Nigeria, even before Buhari, we borrowed and we didn't get things done.
No. Hold on a second. I made allusion to you give me a cup of tea and then you take it away. I don't agree that we had more money under Obasanjo. Let's not forget that we had mounting debts. Obasanjo helped us to get they forgave us.
That's forgiven, yes.
And by the time he was leaving in 2007, he moved our, what do you call it again?
XNL?
Yes, reserves to about $42 billion. What did we do after from Yaradua to Jonathan and then to Buhari? You're talking about borrowing and all. Goodness me. Most of the issues we have right now in terms of the economy and the mounting debts that we had were they started, you could argue, under Buhari.
This is where I agree with you that he started under Buhari, but what would you have had him done? What do you think he could have done? There was no money. The country was broke. We were flat broke. So would you have preferred a president who came in? You remember that he was constantly blaming Jonathan. Why do you think he was blaming Jonathan?
And now hold on. And now Bola Tinubu is blaming the previous government before him. It's a cycle, vicious cycle.
The guy wasted our resources. Jonathan could have saved this country. What we are currently going through. He was the one that could have saved us.
Hold on.
So would you have had a president that would come in and give you excuses?
In fairness to
why
Jonathan,
he couldn't do this, why he couldn't do that,
in fairness to Jonathan, let's also be fair to Jonathan. Jonathan saw how much the country was bleeding in terms of what we were paying for subsidies. Jonathan, this thing was the President Bola Tinubu
will fight you.
No.
Let me tell you what.
Hold on.
He was the president. What are you telling me? Did Bola Tinubu not do the same thing now? Despite the outcry.
Hold on.
He was supposed to stand his ground.
Sheriff, hold on. Let's not try to bring
He
up
was
this
the president.
You're taking us to January 12th.
2012. He wanted to. I agree that he could have gone about it a different way. I think it was slightly authoritarian, which was why people rose against it. But let's not displace the propaganda by this present government, Bola Tinubu and co, against the Goodluck. The former Ekiti governor just a few months ago openly admitted, so I think it was somewhere in Lagos here, that yes, they played politics with it. They kept making Jonathan look like he was the devil, but 10 years after, that same thing Jonathan wanted to do in 2012, which the present administration has been telling us about how is the best thing after sliced bread, that if we don't do it, the country would have died. They stopped him from doing it 10 years ago. So we can blame, I agree that Jonathan had his faults. He had his faults. I felt that he missed an opportunity. He didn't ask for power. There's almost no way Bayelsan would have been voted president in this country because of the way our elections are run, because of our population. It fell on his laps, and I think he wasted great opportunity. But let's not also forget that certain individuals who are benefiting from it today ran propaganda against him to make him look worse than he actually was.
Okay, can I say something?
Go ahead.
I think I don't need your permission. I think that you cannot, there is no excuse to give for failure of a sitting president in power, to succumb to the propaganda of an opposition. It means that you're not supposed to be there.
I don't disagree.
If you are the president, propaganda shouldn't get you out of office if you know what you're doing.
Were you not part of the people in Ojota?
I wasn't there. I wasn't part of them.
Okay.
If you are the president, it is your job to put your country first. How did Bola Tinubu get to do what he is doing? Why did Buhari not remove subsidy despite
Sheriff,
having it being in position to remove it?
Sheriff,
hold on, let me finish.
Subsidy had been removed already.
Let me finish.
Bola Tinubu did not actually need to make that announcement.
Let me finish.
Okay,
let me just finish.
Okay.
Jonathan was a sitting president. No matter what any opposition could do in terms of propaganda, he had times 100 of machinery. I mean, government machinery to crush any propaganda. What did he do? As usual, clueless. If you're going to do such a thing, there are processes to, I mean, look at, oh my God. I mean, say what you want to say about Bola Tinubu. The man knows what he is doing. Look at the tax bill. How did they get the tax bill to go? That thing could have been as tedious as the PIB. Look at the amount of consultation that went around. Look at the amount of, especially the presidential tax reform, whatever, that committee. Look at the immense work that they did. Did they not get it through?
Brilliant job. I'm not even going to sit here and dispute
I'm saying that as the president, you have every power.
Well, that's not what we're arguing.
No. I'm trying to.
No, that's not what we're arguing.
Hold on. That's exactly what you said.
No.
I'm trying to.
I'm saying you can't discount that.
No, hold on.
Okay.
I'm trying to punch hole in that your argument of you have to blame Bola Tinubu and his group for the propaganda. What was the president doing? What was it? He's going to take the responsibility.
Just to correct a notion, Bola Tinubu did not remove subsidies. I
did not argue that with you.
Because
I told you.
a lot of Nigerians don't even know that. I think it was quite silly to even announce that on the first day of his
inauguration.
It was very silly. He didn't need to, because the PIB that had been signed, here's the truth. The PIB that had been signed removed subsidies by December of 2022. But it was an election year the next year. The consequence of removing subsidies, of course, will make lives of Nigerians harder. They understood that fact and knew that, wait, if we let this thing be, this is going to affect us politically. The same way presidents or governors find it difficult to regularize the civil service, especially in states that are civil service dependent. It's a political landmine that you have to navigate. So what did they do? They came up with a solution. Okay, you know what? Let election pass. Let's add subsidies for 6 months so that election will pass, so that by the time the new person is coming in, he doesn't have to deal with the political fallout. So subsidies were actually supposed to end on the 30th of June, 2023. So President Bola Tinubu actually didn't need to make any formal announcement. Unfortunately, he did. So many Nigerians associate removal of subsidy to him, when in the real sense of the word, it actually wasn't him. It was done, by signing the PIB Act
under Buhari.
Under Buhari.
Interesting. Now that you guys went to this conversation, so let's pivot a little bit now, because we've talked about what could have been. In 2023, many Nigerians saw what they thought could have been. So I'll just go to Peter Obi. So what is he? A movement, a man, or a missed opportunity for Nigeria's political awakening?
I think it's a missed opportunity. I think Peter Obi maybe is a phenomenon that is very rare. in any country. The man, is genuine enough in his articulation of his pressing his point, his plans for Nigeria. But here is my opinion, my very frank opinion. He's almost the same as the other politicians. I've said this privately, and I'm saying it on this podcast. All Nigerian politicians are the same. They will strike deals when they need to strike deals because that's what politicians do. They would close deals where they're supposed to close deals because that's what politicians do. They will sacrifice you when a sacrifice needs to be made. That's what politicians do. Politicians, anywhere and everywhere, they're all about self-interest, self-preservation, no matter how clean, nice looking, excellent record. I mean, he was governor for 8 years. Who becomes governor for 8 years without any compromise whatsoever? If we look closer, deeper, enough, we would find something on Peter Obi. He is not a saint. He cannot claim to be a saint. In this country, you can't be the governor of a state, and then you're a saint. You can't claim to be a saint. My take about him is, yes, he could have emerged as the president of Nigeria. I strongly believe he could have, because 2023 election was a mass movement. What happened on the presidential election day was an aberration. It shouldn't have happened. That system was tampered with, obviously. If it wasn't tampered with, what the result might likely be, maybe we may never get to know. But I was trying to look at what happens if, let's assume that in a parallel universe, Peter Obi emerges as the president of this country. What do we think he could have done? What do we think could have happened in his government? I think that he would have been impeached almost immediately. I had this conversation with somebody else the other day, and the person said that, when he was governor, he worked with opposition lawmakers, and I thought, look, you are fooling yourself if you think that state level politics is the same as national level politics. These are completely different scenarios. You cannot compare state level politics with a national politics. It's different. Peter Obi, I don't think he would survive it. I don't think he would survive 3 months in power were he to be elected as president of this country.
Ufuoma, you do see it differently, huh?
Slightly, yes. First off, I do not agree totally that all Nigerian politicians are the same. I also do not agree that I don't think Peter Obi is a saint. There's no saint. I also don't think Nigeria needs a saint. So they say in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. Mm-hmm. I also agree with Sheriff that there's no way you can be governor in Nigeria's political system without having to make compromises here and there. But it's quite rare to have a Nigerian politician who was governor for 8 years and there's almost no skeleton in his cupboard.
You are struggling to find the dirt.
I think that is his biggest selling point. And I think that's why a lot of Nigerians love him. Because unfortunately, we have politicians in this country who, if the DSS really wants to work, or if the EFCC wants to work, a large chunk of them should be in jail. But the APC is in power for 10 years now, yeah? Do you want to tell me that they've not seen any skeleton that they could have used? Because usually that's what happens. The fact that 10 years is a bit far. 3 years into him trying to be president 2 years ago and possibly 2027, and the government in power has really not been able to find that one thing to stick him with. I think that's his biggest selling point. But yes, I don't agree that he's a saint. Now, I don't also agree that he would have won the 2023 election. I don't. The only way Peter Obi would have won that election was if an Atiku was not on the ballot. Here's my analysis of that 2023 election. I think nobody was an outright clear winner. That's what I think. I thought that election should have gone to a runoff. Now, I don't know who the top two could have been, but the Supreme Court, of course, did not agree with me. So legally, it was difficult to prove, but there was so much manipulation. Because tell me how House of Reps, Senate elections were held on the same day. If you go to the INEC portal, you can still see the complete clear results of that election. But the election for the presidency has question mark. Until today, 2+ years after, INEC has not been able to tell us what exactly that glitch was. But I also don't agree with people who feel that Peter Obi won that election. Because as much as he got votes in places where many people did not expect him to get, in the North Central, in the Southwest, in the Southeast, in the South, I don't think in the core North he got enough. So even if he had the highest number of votes, the way the Electoral Act and the Constitution is that you must get 25% in 2/3 of Nigerian states, which is 24. He didn't get that. So I believe that election possibly would have gone to a runoff.
And
now,
indeed, they say he lost Lagos. Is that
no,
correct?
he won Lagos.
Yeah, yeah.
But I can also argue and tell you the margin with which he won was way more than what was eventually put out. But hey, these are things we can't prove.
Let me just wrap up with this. I said something, I think at the beginning, where I said that Nigerians love a messiah. They want a champion. They want a superhero. So they would go to any length to sing the praise of that person. I think the mistake we made, we don't learn from our mistakes. We are the type of people with very brief, short amnesia. Our level of Alzheimer is very chronic, but we like to live in denial. The same mistake we made for Buhari, we will repeat it again. And we'll continue to repeat it because
we're looking for a messiah.
Politicians know that Nigerians want a messiah.
But don't blame the average Nigerian.
They will whitewash anybody and present them as a messiah.
We've been dealt a terrible blow with the successive leaderships we have had. We are here talking about the politicians. How about the military administrators? How about them? In a sane society, you could argue that people like General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida should be in jail.
Should be tried. Should have been thrown in jail.
Should be in jail. In a sane society, the Oputa panel, if my memory serves me right, that Obasanjo put out in the early 2000s, did say in its report that Buhari should be nowhere near, what's it called? Government. That's what it said. For a highly respectable judge, Supreme Court judge, God rest his soul, one of my neighbors, grew up in his town, to have said that, the panel to have said that. But years later, we ended up voting. I'm still guilty of doing that.
So it comes back to the same thing. The same election cycle that had an Oshibajo, who one would have thought would have been the front runner. He's been the vice president for 8 years.
He was placed there.
Whether he was placed there. Some people had seen him at the helm for a bit, and people had high hopes. Somebody from the academia, somebody with who seemed to have some deep-rooted principles and stuff, but he was kicked to the curb, and by his party, and then there was this obedient movement. The question I want to ask was that whole wave of Peter Obi, the obedient thing, it could have spelled one of two things. Either that Nigeria is ready for an awakening, or that it exposes just how divided Nigerians have become. Which is it, Sheriff?
I think it's a bit of everything. First is that an awakening, yes, but awakening to what? Make a god out of a man. That you're setting yourself up for a huge calamity, the one that you may never return from. Because what I saw during the obedience movement of 2023 and up till now is this mob action. They can't listen to you. Like, they can't hear your argument out. And guess what? You can't blame them as well, because that's our system of politics. We hunt down opposition. We do anything to silence anybody that has different opinion, different views, especially about our so-called Messiah. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, our fault lines. It's very sad because, again, I'm going to track back to that argument of Nigerians being smart enough to know when you are being manipulated. We're still not. If we conduct elections in 30, 40 years, our fault lines will not disappear. And politicians will continue to exploit this. And we will still not be smart enough to ask this person to tell us about what you're going to do. We don't care about where you're from or what religion you practice. Look, go to the UK. They once had an Indian prime minister who worshipped his whatever.
Rishi Sunak.
And nobody said anything about it. It was never an issue. But it's a country where we are, and if you're a Muslim, it's problem. If you're a Christian, it's problem. The traditionalists, nobody even want to associate with traditionalists. And by the way, almost all of them go to these same traditionalists.
So I agree to some point, disagree slightly. I think it was a movement. It could have been better. I hate the fact that a majority of people, do not want to listen to the other argument. But I also think it's a bit of a disservice to blame all of this on the obedient movement, because the forerunners before them and till today, the APC thrived. Whatever you think the obedient movement is doing right now, the APC did worse. Literally, they took a casket, if you remember, and said it was the burial ground for the former president. Literally, Professor Wole Soyinka literally called out the wife of the former president a sheepopotamus. He did that. He's barely said a thing in 2 years about his friend, the current president. So I don't agree with a lot of the things from the supposed obedient movement, but I'm saying they learned from somewhere.
So, but that's what I said. I said, you can't blame them.
Exactly.
That's how we play politics.
Unfortunately. But I remember writing an article early February 2022. This was way before Peter Obi left. Peter Obi left the PDP in May. And I I did a bit of an analysis, and I said the three persons my best three candidates that I think were best suited to be Nigeria's president. I did an analysis, and for me it was at number 3, Rotimi Amechi, who was transport minister at the time. I don't know. I sort of have a likeness for him. I saw his part of his administration in Rivers State. While I worked there. The vice president at the time, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, and Peter Obi. At the time, I did not even know that Peter Obi had the capacity to do what he eventually did with the Labour Party. Because let's not kid ourselves. Without a structure, for somebody to pull out 6 million votes. But you see, the problem of the 2022 election, which started, in my opinion, from Buhari. Now, one of the big issues I have with Buhari is that he magnified Nigeria's fault lines. So we've never been a united country. I don't even want us to argue that one. We've always had our issues. The Yoruba man always has question marks, over the Igbo. The Igbo, we've always had that. I grew up in a neighborhood in Okokomaiko where I had people from different ethnic, and I could literally see it as a teenager, how all of these little backbiting and, divisions. But you see, we are doing it inside our house for a lot of us. But now, under Buhari,
Became mainstream.
it became mainstream because it felt like he was tacitly supporting some persons against the other.
Okay, which must bring us to what has become the rising tribal ethnic polarization, and I need you to pick it up from there. Every national conversation in this country now eventually, descends into ethnic war. The question is you mentioned how we've always had these problems, but under Buhari it became such
Mainstream
a thing. Is this deliberate? Are some people benefiting from this?
Yes, it's deliberate. Sheriff has been saying it repeatedly, in this conversation. These politicians know these things. So they find ways to play it out because it benefits them politically.
But are the people so dumb that they cannot read between the lines?
It feels like we are dumb. It's so bad that just this Super Falcons winning the African Cup of Nations. Did you notice that at a point in time, it was beginning to be an Igbo versus Yoruba thing? They were beginning to play Esther Okoronkwo against Ajibade. I couldn't wrap my head around it. Like, okay, when I want to bring our inside football join.
It's possible the person who started it just wanted to have a devilish laugh and all of that. The question is, and again, which would also, because there are so many things we need to talk about, and but I don't have all year, which will also make me. I want you guys to pivot also to social media, because social media seems to amplify the worst of our.
I was about going there.
Yeah.
But circle back. These issues, in my opinion, from Buhari got into the 2023 election. You see, the sad fact that we had the three major candidates from the three biggest political party, the three biggest ethnic regions. I remember saying in that one of the articles I also wrote on Nigerian for that, it seems like we're going back to 1966 or 1982, because literally that's what happened. So we had Atiku, who was Fulani Hausa. We had Tinubu, who was a Yoruba, and then we had Peter Obi, who was Igbo. And then to make matters worse, something that when it was tried out in 1993 really was not a problem, which is a Muslim candidate,
now became something.
Now became a thing because don't forget, the fault lines I was talking about had now become mainstream to the point where a president could openly threaten genocidal statements against an ethnic group. And when social media, Twitter, decided to take out that comment, it became a problem. So yes, social media it has amplified those things that usually we will lock our rooms and say, and nobody will hear it. Now people can just pick up their phone, go to Instagram, Facebook, and just say things without thinking about the consequences. And unfortunately, the politicians themselves are magnifying it. They might not say it themselves, but their lieutenants, their aides, for the love of God, we have people who are supposed to be media aides to the governor of Lagos State openly displaying bigotry.
I think social media is a gift. I think social media is a gift of a lifetime. We cannot blame social media for anything. Social media is a platform. We need to take responsibility of how we use social media. Social media can be end. It can also be to a new start, benefit for Nigeria. But then we have a problem, a very ignorant population. That is what determines how social media would work either for us or against us. When President Buhari wanted to clamp down on social media, Lai Mohammed, being the architect, then I kept telling myself that you are not thinking. Social media could actually even be to your advantage as the government. Now, there's something that Nigerian government, successive government, have failed to do, which is to communicate their policies, whatever developmental strides that they're making. And they have social media at their disposal. They can have all kinds of aids, all kinds of media aids. Guess what? You will not find maybe 2-3 of them will be very active on social media. And it's not that these governments are not doing anything. We've had government that have done tremendously well, but what do you see on social media? And if you even find someone that is active on social media, they will connive and get the person out of government.
Are you alluding to?
Yes, I am. I'm alluding to it. So it's not, social media is not the problem. Is how we use social media is a problem, and we have an ignorant population that the system has kept ignorant
Deliberately.
so as to be able to manipulate them. That's how I see things.
It'll be interesting. I'd like to touch on GMOs, genetically modified organisms. These GMO crops are seen as either some assistance or solution to hunger, or potentially a silent killer. I'm wondering, are Nigerians asking the right questions with regards to GMOs before adopting or not?
I think that question is late because
It's adopted already.
It's adopted already.
It's already. People are already eating them. Anyway.
Yes, you find government officials coming on national television to endorse GMO, genetically modified organisms. You have GMO foods everywhere. They are even coded to add to it. You can go to a grocery store and you find some labeling that can, indicate that this is a GMO fruit. It's an organic food. Listen, world over, the globe, the human population is facing one critical problem, which is food and water. No doubt about it. But there are some countries, such as ours, who shouldn't have such a problem, because we're blessed with arable lands. We're blessed with people who still want to do agriculture. We have excellent people. Well, I'm not even talking about subsistence agriculture. I'm talking about learned people, professors who have done great work, great research in this aspect of agriculture, who could help this government increase yield. Guess what? We always like shortcuts. We've always loved shortcuts. And what am I saying? So you have, there are many aspects to this, but let me talk about shortcut. So you have these huge arable lands that you could invest in. You could even support agro industries to thrive and all of that. But you'd rather you open up the borders so that somebody somewhere can cater to your stomach because you're one elite who can't eat local food. You have people who, in the name of helping farmers, give fertilizers to farmers on one hand, collect that same fertilizer bags on the other hand, with the other hand to go and sell in the black market. You have people who, when I say people, I'm talking about policymakers now, government officials who bring in tractors for farmers to use. then once the cameras are off, they take the same tractors, and before you know it, I once heard a story with one professor that I interviewed at one point, and the professor said there was this farm settlement somewhere in Nigeria that, the politician brought in tractors. They did very elaborate press briefing. They took people around the farm settlement and everything. 1 year, 2 years later, you'll not find anything there anymore. It's now forest. It's now everywhere field. Then you have the other. This one is speculative anyway. You have the other area of induced insecurity. by foreign interests. I mean, I can't confirm that, but it's jolly well is looking like it. Because we have, tell me why Benue is always experiencing what Benue is
Supposedly
experiencing.
the food basket of the country.
Food basket of the nation. Tell me why Zamfara, Katsina. Tell me why Jos, where we could go to Jos and harvest the best of tomato species in this country. Why do we keep suffering in the midst of plenty? And you have a government who have paid lip service to these things. Now, it's shortcut for them because GMOs were easily adopted.
Some speculate that some of those skirmishes are deliberate. It's to prepare the ground to
Bring in these.
you know. I don't have the evidence to that, but some people say these things. Ufuoma, GMO is here. Europe has largely turned these genetically modified organisms down. But Africa is through the whole Agra thing, and we know what's been going on social media now. Some individuals, what's the name of a friend, Aproko doctor, sitting down
With Bill Gates.
and been getting the dragging of his life over it. Do you have fears along these lines, or are you indifferent?
To be honest, no, I'm not indifferent, but I don't have enough information. And the one thing I don't like to do is to speak about things that I'm not knowledgeable about, because I don't want to show my stupidity or silliness. But it's been an interesting conversation, because literally for the last 4 or 5 days, I've just been, reading the different sides to this conversation. The one thing I picked out, I saw a comment. Somebody, said, while we're quarreling, insulting ourselves about, the pros and the cons, how about some of the terrible practices, like what we do for catfish farming, to ensure that, and we go to lounges and markets and buy these fishes. The Nigerian Info Port Harcourt's newsroom did an extensive investigation some months ago about how people put detergents in fufu. So while we're here arguing about GMOs and the pros and the cons, some of the terrible practices we as a people do for the food that we bring to the market are questions we're not even asking ourselves. So I might not have much to say on the GMOs because, like I said, I don't have information. But those are also very salient questions we might want to put our microscope on.
Interesting. Okay, I want to talk about something that's been awash in the Nigerian media recently, which is renaming of streets. So names, particularly in Lagos, street names were changed and all of that. I'm wondering, when Lagos renames streets, is the state rewriting history or reclaiming history, or is it simply playing politics?
I think it's a distraction. And this is what politicians do. In fact, they are perfect at it. It's inconsequential. Does the renaming of streets bring good governance? Does it make your life better? They are getting us to talk about the most
mundane,
irrelevant things. We waste our energies on social media discussing street names. Please tell me, how does that make food cheaper in the market? It's irrelevant. It's a distraction. See, Femi, I'll say it again. Education. We are so ignorant that we cannot see. We cannot see. It's irrelevant. Dude, your doctors are on strike. Your nurses are on strike. The nurses are on strike. How does that affect people? Lagosians are busy discussing street names. I mean, tell me, how is this in fact, we shouldn't even be talking about it on this podcast, please. Because
unfortunately, the reason we're talking about it is, like it or lump it, it has undertones. And again, circling back, politicians understand these undertones and the fact that it helps their cause, pitting us against each other. I think one of the best things about Lagos, which differentiates it from almost everywhere except possibly Abuja, is the multi-dimensional cultural diversity that Lagos has. Having lived in different areas, in almost every area in the south I've lived. Amisoko, I was born in Lagos, left at age 3 to the southeast, grew up in Imo State, lived for a few months, almost a year in Ondo, worked in Rivers, married to a Rivers woman. I've come to understand quite a lot of the nuances, the different cultural heritage of the different people. But many Nigerians don't have it. It comes back to the education we're talking about. The average Ikwere man in Rivers State does not leave Ikwere land, and so has little or no clue what the nuances are in Lagos, for example, or Ondo or Ekiti.
So it's not just education, it's also exposure.
Exposure, yeah. You know, the average Lagosian who was born here in Lagos has not traveled out of. Everybody, there's this fault line. Everybody that is after the Niger Bridge is Igbo. Many people have that very silly misconception. The same way most of us down south here believe that everybody over the River Niger, Benue, that way, are all Hausa Fulani. Many people don't know there's a Nupe in Niger State. Many people have no idea about Tiv and Idomas in Benue. Many people don't even know that 40% of Bauchi is not Muslim. That there are Christians in Bauchi, Gombe. Quite a number of Nigerians don't know these things. So, and the politicians know. So they use these irrelevant things to pitch us against each other. Because tell me why the son of the president is married to an Igbo woman, yeah? Tell me why the president himself is married to an Ishekiri from Delta State. And it's not a problem. But we remember to call the LP governorship candidate in Lagos, we call him Chinedu. Okay, not we, but some people deliberately call him Chinedu. Why? Again, these things are irrelevant. But these politicians understand that these things work for their electoral benefits. Yeah, so they play it.
But where does it all go? Do you fear that if these things are left unchecked, especially with social media now amplifying, Nigeria could be descending towards some form of a civil unrest?
I think it borders on collective consciousness. How exposed, like we mentioned just a while ago, are our people? Can we identify when someone is trying to manipulate us? Can we look? Politicians will always try anything and everything. They will try to use anything at their disposal to sway vote, to sway minds, to sway perception, and they know how gullible we are because over time. Again, we can't discuss this without looking at the decay, the rot in the entire structure of Nigeria. It didn't start 10 years ago. It didn't start 20 years ago. True. People would say that in our time we didn't go to private school. Now it was. I mean, you could ask your grandfather the kind of English, the vocabulary that they used to use then, even though it was a bit messed up, But you could say that if you went to public school back in the day, you were as good as anybody who had attended a private school today, even maybe better. That was shining days, the glorious days of this country. But what happened? All of these things started to rot away.
I blame the military.
We,
I'm sorry. I blame them.
We killed our primary education. We killed our secondary education. Everybody now, even if you are a pauper, you would struggle and do everything possible to have your child attend a private school. Because you know what? Everybody now knows that, you see, the primary, secondary, they're all dead. Now we are beginning to kill our tertiary institutions.
Those ones are dead already. You see, the beginning.
No. I'm saying that because I still have some kind of hope that it can be fixed. Now, in a nation,
let's not kid ourselves. They are dead.
In a nation where you have the education system, the pillar on which development, on which innovation, creativity, the sustenance of a country can be built upon. In a situation where we have this pillar being eroded, chipped away, successive horrible governance structure, you can't have anything built on it.
Okay, just because we need to go. All these things put together. This is 2025. 2027, what's your best scenario? Best scenario. Who do you see? What do you see?
Who do we see in what sense?
In terms of, we talked everything. Leadership, everything is joined together. Leadership. Governance would potentially change again or continue. But what's the best scenario you see for 2017 if you could influence it, if you could have a hand in it?
If I could influence it?
Yes, what would you like to see?
A system where, first things first, the electoral process is sanitized, is open and transparent. I know that Sheriff earlier did mention that it really doesn't matter, that we're already set up to fail. But the small hope I have is that if we have a system in place where our election process is, the flaws are cut out to the barest minimum, because you're not going to have a perfect electoral system. Let's be honest with ourselves. Not even the Western world have it. But if we do that in Nigeria, I think it will ensure that people who get elected are answerable to the populace, knowing that if they misbehave 4 years after or 3 years after, depending on the election cycle, local governments and state presidency, that the possibility they could get kicked out is there and not determined by, I have to change the election results in the collation centers for me to win. I think if that fear is there, we could possibly start on a trajectory where we can redeem this country. Anything outside of that, I'm sorry. Quote me. There's no redemption for Nigeria. I'm sorry. Anybody can tell you what they want to tell you. They can mention the Tedolas or the Dangotes or the people who have succeeded. Those few will succeed. The majority of Nigerians will be in perpetual poverty because the powers that be in governance. My favorite line from the TV series Game of Thrones is from, what's his name again? Littlefinger. Chaos is a ladder. The chaos we're suffering today is deliberate because it benefits a certain few. So I don't see any hope. The only little hope I think we might have is if we're able to sanitize the electoral process. But who will do that? It's the same people in power. Will they do it? Your guess is as good as mine.
So you are saying there's nothing. Do you see anything? You look at your best case scenario, Tinubu, post-Tinubu, the diaspora, Nigerians. Do you see anybody there who can be a champion, any collective?
Do you know how many people left this country after 2023 elections?
I don't want to think of the numbers. But they're staggering numbers.
Because Nigeria as a system has found a way to keep letting the people down consistently over time. The moment people can see that glimmer, that tiny light somewhere, the system, and by the way, I mean the people running the system now, they will find a way to shatter that hope. It will happen again. Nigeria is destined to fail. There is a need for a reset.
Whatever the reset is.
I am not going to tell you what the reset is because it is not going to get better in 2027. Certainly not in 2031. Certainly not in 2034. The constructs that we have right now cannot work. We are deceiving ourselves. We are living a lie. Ufuoma says something. We're not united. A people that is united can have a collective dream, one aspiration. We don't have that. We want different things. How about we start from that as a reset? Why am I saying it? Look, whatever reset means, we should define it. If we are not bold enough to call ourselves together and say, look, guys, let's discuss Nigeria. All these youth confab that they want to do, waste of money.
Just want to give the boys money.
The national conferences that we've had, what has been the outcome? If we don't look ourselves and say, what is the reset that we need? This country, there is no future.
I think it should start from us asking ourselves, do we want to be one country? Do we? If people want to go, let them go.
It should become South Sudan and...
No, not that. If people don't want to exist as Nigeria, then let them go. Let's call for that referendum, if that's what people want. That's because, unfortunately, we are not... I've said this before. We've never been united. We've always had that, It's just that this lack of unity has become mainstream now. And sadly, people in power are the ones propagating.
Yeah, they're the ones.
They're the ones doing it. So we need to ask ourselves that question. Some people say they want to leave the country. Some people in the South say, oh, no, we're not part of Biafra. Don't add us. Don't force me as an Isoko man.
And guess what?
That I want to be part of your Biafra.
The same people that want to leave the country are forcing their own country on the other people.
Do you understand? We should ask ourselves those questions. You could call me an Igbo person because the majority of my formative years I spent in Imo State. I can tell you for a fact that even in the Southeast, even in the 5 Southeast states, the Anambra man doesn't really care about the Imo man.
Or the Ebonyi man.
Do you understand? You could argue for the same too in the Southwest. Ikiti versus Ondo. Or even in Ondo where you even have a little pocket of Ijaw people.
Ijaw people there. Yeah.
So those ones could even argue that they've been marginalized in Ondo State. Or do we talk about the Ijaw people in Delta? So we need to ask ourselves this question. Do we really want to be one as a country? If we don't, because some people will tell you, no, we must remain as one. The question is, why are they insisting?
Yeah.
Maybe because there's a benefit somewhere.
In whose interest?
In whose interest should we be one?
So it sounds like there's not much hope, huh?
I don't see any.
You favor getting out of the country for anybody who can?
Yes, absolutely.
Ufuoma?
Femi.
Absolutely. Please leave.
Let me tell you the honest truth. I wish I could triple or quadruple my salaries. I wish I could get more money from other sources. If I can afford it, I'm tendering my resignation. Sorry, Cool Wazobia Info. I'm sending you my resignation and I'm leaving the country. Because the honest truth is, I don't see any hope. I don't. If as sometimes I call myself a middle class, even though I don't think that exists.
You're a mid-level manager. Let's start from there.
If as a mid-level manager in arguably the biggest radio station in Lagos
In Nigeria.
or Nigeria. I'm still struggling, literally.
And not because you're not being paid well.
No, exactly.
No, let's bring that out. Not
I'm
because
still I know the number of DMs and the number of messages I get on social media on a daily basis. People asking me for things, thinking that my life is great. They don't know how I'm struggling to pay my children's school fees. You know, so if at this level I am, never mind the phones I'm using. Not yeah, but the point I'm trying to make is, if I'm struggling, what about the person who's earning less than 100,000 naira a month? What do you think that person is going through?
It doesn't matter. Look, if you earn $1 million naira a month now, it's
almost nothing.
It's like $400 or stuff, like you know, something like that in terms of dollars. The question though is, are you saying there is more hope everywhere else but Nigeria? You guys followed what happened in Spain. The media, you know, tried to be very circumspect about reporting that, but there are sources that say all that fighting that went on in Spain, was it last week, was literally Africans on Africans. Arab Africans, white Africans on darker African skin and all of that. There are problems. The reports we are even getting in many of these places now is that there is polarization in these places. Look at Ghana. It's Nigeria must go. There is one thing.
They do same to them in
it started, you know, and in many parts. Look at the UK now. Look at Germany and all of that. And you see, when you're not even from these places and you've uprooted your entire life there, and you get caught in the crossfire, it can be devastating. You are from Kwara State,
That's right.
If you are a Lagos boy, if something happens, I know you have a home in Ibadan. You have your ancestral home in Kwara. If one thing happens now in Lagos, you can say, oh, let me get to Ibadan. If the Wahala is coming to Ibadan, you know what, let me head towards Kwara. You could also say too that for some, look at did you know the number of Nigerians that got caught in the Russia-Ukraine crossfires?
Yeah.
And what happened to many of our young ones who were just trapped? Some of them were schooling and all of that.
Yeah.
They weren't even allowed to leave. They were forced into the battle lines.
Yeah.
They were trying to escape through Poland. And if you were a guy, you did not stand a chance. And then, you know, nobody has even told us how many Nigerian young men died in the, you know, because not only do they take you to the front lines, there were some reports that even the home country itself treats you badly, badly.
There's no place like home.
Yeah.
So I agree. There's no place like home, definitely. But what in a situation where you don't have hope in your home? You don't have, you are threatened in your home.
Do you get?
Like you don't have a life in your home. You know that you could do more. You know that you could be more. I mean, I'm not going to be held back by whatever is happening elsewhere. I'm going to try my luck if I had the chance to do that. Sorry, see you, but I have to.
It is what it is.
I really have to. Now, call me myopic, whatever you want to call me that. But if I am not part of you people, you insignificant few, looting this country, I can never be part of you anyways, then you cannot see what I am seeing. You cannot feel what I am feeling. I could go to the US legally and make something out of myself and give my children better life and give them hope and know that I'm setting them up for success, to flourish. I could go to Germany. Now, these places, mind you, have their own issues. But guess what? The chances of survival is greater than surviving here in Nigeria.
And that's the bottom line. The fact that irrespective of the issues, and let's not even kid ourselves, these countries are now working on their laws to ensure that we don't come in, or they reduce the number of us coming in, because
guess what caused it? Guess what caused it? bad governance.
Exactly. Bad governance.
Because our people are being forced to leave by hook or by crook, legally or illegally.
One of our colleagues, left the country. He left the year went on. That's 2018. You know him. It's not like where he went to there is El Dorado. But he's about to own a home there through hard work. His daughter is a state champion in athletics. So possibly in another 8-10 years, you could see her running for the country. I'm trying to not to mention names.
Yep.
You could see her running for the country and she has a Nigerian name. And you'd be like, oh, wow.
Well, unfortunately, I don't think people will even know the name is Nigerian.
Possibly, because it doesn't even sound Nigerian. But the point is, we're almost age mates. And I'm looking at the trajectory of his 2 kids, and I'm looking at my own 2 kids who are in Port Harcourt as we speak. And whether I like it or not, on paper, it's clear that those 2 out of the country are way ahead
clear like day and night
of my own children.
No.
It's just a change of scenery. The system works. If you work hard, you are almost sure that it will work for you. But we will be here. We will work hard. I will wake up 4 a.m. in the morning to produce news. I will stay up till 7 p.m. in the evening when the last bulletin is read on our stations, just to ensure that I do my work, yeah? But eventually, Nigeria will happen to me to the point where it doesn't even look like I'm hardworking.
I think you two have depressed me enough. Thank you very much for this conversation. But it's a conversation that should be had. My God, I've never seen 2 people with such high hopelessness. Nigeria
happened to us.
It's just ridiculous. But,
it is what it is.
But it's worth. I mean, it's what they say, food for thought. Yeah. Just ponder over it, and then you ask yourself, the people who have the privilege of opportunity of leadership, do they ever hear these kind of conversations, or people in their circle?
They keep psychophants now. Who tell them
all of that?
Who tell them what they want to hear?
Yeah,
exactly.
but again, back to the point where you go to Nigerian investors, even young people coming up, the mentality itself will depress you.
Sure.
And
nobody wants to work hard.
We also have to be careful that sometimes the mentality that all of us should just run away could be problematic.
I agree.
I agree. When the drain to Ghana started a few years ago,
Mm-hmm.
I was sure this was going to lead to this. It was definitely going to lead to this. The whole thing that happens periodically in South Africa and all of that. It's sometimes you look at the people themselves. The people, these leaders, do they not come from the people? It's a mentality thing, and it's just so sad. Thank you for your time. I think man is incapable of solving man's problems. It's as ridiculous as it is. I don't think man is capable of solving man's problems. And the reason why I think that, for me, it's like, and this is my analogy before we go. So this is a gadget, an equipment, right? It comes with the manufacturer's manual, right? So the manufacturer's manual is there, and that manufacturer's manual tells me, certain problems that might arise and how to deal with it. But it's there in the manual. But I've never read that manual one day. I don't care. I've probably even dumped it. I've thrown it away. So every time this thing develops a problem, I go to you, technician Ufuoma, or technician Sheriff. Both of you may not have read the manual either. So you are electricians or whatever it is you can fix some problems, fix one, create 4 more, fix, and then I have to come back and you fix one of those, create 3 more. But but the manual, nobody looks at it. That, for me, is what I think is humans' problem. We have to return to the manufacturer's manual, find out what that is. Thank you for your time, guys.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for
my
having
water.
us.